100% entertainment, 100% electricity, 100%
Pipebomb Radio with your host, Felix Olmedo.
Be the man! You gotta beat the man!
Austin James.
And that's the bottom line, 'cause Stone Cold said so.
And Nate Milton.
Can you dig it, sucker?
Welcome, Happy New Year. Welcome everybody to the very first edition of Pipebomb Radio for 2015. Can you believe it? We've gone 3 years. This is going into our third year, live on the air. Joining me as always, Austin. Where else is he going to be? And the one and only Nate. How's it going, guys? How was your New Year?
You know, mine was absolutely phenomenal. But, you know, it's getting even better because tonight we're having on WWE Hall of Famer, the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be, Bret, the Hitman Hart.
Can you believe that? One of the greatest world champions in history is going to be joining us here in just a moment. And we are going to be talking to him about, let's just say we're going to mix things up a little bit and have some fun. Bret will have some fun. I think our listeners will have a lot of fun. Multi-time world champion, WWE Hall of Famer, uncle to Natalia. I know WWE likes to plug that quite a bit, but, you know, all around, definitely one of the greatest of all time. And if those of us who remember watching him growing up, you guys are in for a treat. And then we'll have more to talk about as well after we speak with Bret. But I'm not going to keep him waiting. We will be bringing him on here shortly. Let me just go ahead and put that number through here. Keep my fingers crossed that I don't get no butterfingers and dial the wrong number and have issues. But, you know, I think I'll be fine. Unless, here we go. Alrighty.
The customer you have dialed is currently not available. Please try your call again later.
Uh-oh.
The customer you have dialed is currently not available. Please try your call again later.
Trying to hang up. Hang up. Come on. Maybe I did that wrong. It's a possibility. Won't hang up here, though. You know, let me try this call again, guys. Don't go away. We ain't finished here. We're going to do this. Let's see if that might work. Alrighty, here we go.
The customer you have dialed is currently not available. Please try your call again later.
Okay, that's very strange.
The customer you have dialed is currently not available. Please try your call again later.
See, moments like this are the ones that are most entertaining. I mean, you never know.
You could say that. You could say that.
You're building a lot of suspense and drama right now, Felix.
He's doing all
not
purpose.
Trying to. No, you know what? I'm doing this on purpose, guys. I want to see if you guys are really paying attention. No, I'm kidding. No. You know, it's funny that sometimes whenever we've had to call, we tend to get issues sometimes. I'm not sure if it's on our end with our phone systems. A lot of times Blog Talk can be a little fussy. So we'll give it a minute.
You also have to think of the fact that Bret lives in Canada, right? And,
well, that too. I'll tell you what. Let me try this. I'll try it one more time here, both different ways here. 1 second.
The customer you have dialed is currently not available. Please try your call again later.
Come on. Okay, we'll give it a minute. We will try again and see where it goes at this point. While we go ahead and adjust our phone issues here, we do apologize for the inconvenience, folks. We do have them. We're just having technical difficulties, so please hang in there. Hang in there with us. We will have them on here shortly. We will have, in the meantime, I do want to ask both you guys real quick, If you could sum up how you spent your New Year's in one word, how would you sum it up?
I don't know. I mean, just I couldn't tell you. I mean, there's so much you can describe with New Year's. I mean, with me being me, and obviously, everybody knows me. I don't know. I would have to say wrestling. Because, you came for wrestling, put on words that cannot describe how good of a show Wrestle Kingdom 9 was, and Felix, I'm sure you watched it. Nate, I'm not entirely sure. But the match...
We'll get him to watch it if he hasn't.
God. Yeah, that's it's interesting. I can't go into details because it's one of those shows that you have to see to believe.
I'm going to keep working on this phone issue, guys. Talk amongst yourselves here. Be back in just a moment.
All right. My New Year, Austin, was pretty good. I didn't get a chance to see Wrestle Kingdom. I do have it DVR, though. I watched the UFC fight. I don't know if you had a chance to check that out.
No, I don't. I don't like to watch things that are fake.
Oh, young Austin. Other than that, though, man, I would say I had a pretty good New Year. Looking forward to seeing, man, what 2015 has in store, personally and professionally. I'm thinking it's gonna be a great year, man. Even to you, my brother. Even to you.
Well, speaking of the things about the new year, what came with the new year was a new.
Okay, guys, I'm gonna have to stop all the commotion here for just a moment and introduce one of the greatest world champions in WWE, and for that matter, wrestling history. The one, the only, Mr. Bret, the Hitman Hart. Mr. Hart, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing really good.
We're definitely honored and very pleased to have you on the show. And we just got some questions for you, myself and my team, and we're ready to have some fun.
All right, well, shoot away. I'm ready to answer all your questions.
Awesome. We'll kick things off in the beginning. I usually like to go with the beginning of wrestling superstars' career to get an idea of what was some of their inspirations. Now, I know in your career has been pretty much an open book because a lot of people already know of the famous Stu Hart dungeon, the Hart family. Was your father, when you got involved with wanting to pursue wrestling, was your father, Stu Hart, the main influence in getting into professional wrestling? Was there anyone before him possibly that might have inspired you to want to go that extra mile to become successful?
Well, I had really, I had a really fortunate upbringing in the sense that I used to sell wrestling programs at my dad's wrestling shows when I was about 5 years old. And then when you finish selling, which usually you were done by the end of the first match, for me anyway, I sat at the timekeeper table for the rest of the night. After that, I would sit and watch the wrestlers during I was in their late 50s and early 60s. I'd be 6, 7 years old watching Pat O'Connor and Buddy Rogers and a lot of the great wrestlers some of the greatest wrestlers that ever put on a pair of boots. I got the good fortune of watching them wrestle as a kid, so I was somebody that was infected by wrestling probably from a pretty early age. I was always into making cardboard wrestling belts out of different colored glass and having championship, put tinfoil around them and stuff like that. I've had a lot of rough fights and wrestling matches with my brothers, and wrestling always became my life. I think probably a big part of getting into wrestling came from my brothers all kind of started going into it earlier, like they were all older than me, and I kind of got the idea when I was about 17 or 18 that I could be better than any of my brothers, and if anything, they inspired me to do great things in wrestling by just competitive, just being brothers that are striving to. I think a lot of it was all sort of dedicated in depth and was dedicated to our father. I think we all loved our father and were passionate about trying to help him in his wrestling company back in those days. And, I was just somebody that was probably always very passionate and always affected by wrestling. I mean, it was kind of my whole life, I think, from the time I can remember.
Okay.
Now, speaking of the Hart Dungeon, in one of the most legendary training grounds in history. Many notable names have been there and have gone to capture great success within professional wrestling. Will we see anything like that ever again from you or your family within the future?
You just never know. As far as that, the next generation, you look at Tyson Kidd, and you look at Bulldog's son Harry Smith, and that's the next generation of Hart kids that came down the road, and they've done really well in wrestling. And you just never know that Harry might just become an instructor and become a world-class teacher of wrestling when his careers are over, and same with Tyson Kidd. And I think you just never know what the next generation is going to do. There's a lot of I like to think that the next generation of Hart kids will leave its mark. I'm not sure how it'll all go, but there's waves of next generations, and in my family there's 38 grandkids, so I mean there's going to be maybe a couple hundred opportunities for someone in that pool of eggs to come out as a wrestler and be maybe the star 20 years from now or 30 years from now. It's in the genetics. It's always a possibility, and I have a lot of good things to say about the wrestling life and what it gave me. I think you can read too many books, include my own, and come away with kind of a dark kind of impression of what wrestling, the life of being a professional wrestler can quite be tight. Tough and grueling at times, but at the same time, it has a lot of great opportunities for people to to become great athletes, and B to sort of challenge themselves and be the greatest wrestlers of all time.
Definitely. Now, Bret, besides your in-ring work, which, anybody that's a fan of pro wrestling, they would definitely be a fan of the Hitman. I think one of the most recognizable characteristics about you was your look, with the jacket and the sunglasses and the pink and black color scheme. What was the idea behind that? Where did that look come from?
Well, that's all sort of, I just evolved into that character, which is what kind of made it sort of genuine, or so, the one thing I like to think about in my career, like, not taking anything away from, say, Hulk Hogan or Ric Flair or a lot of guys, they all reminded me of people prior. Like Hulk Hogan reminded me of a sort of a rip-off of Billy Graham's Superstar, or not a rip-off, but it's similar, almost the same kind of gimmick, with the shirts and the big arms and the blonde hair, and it's just a lot of guys do the same gimmick, and Ric Flair was really no different than Buddy Rogers, and I don't know how many dyed blonde-haired wrestlers came up and down the pike that either called themselves Buddy or were kind of a take on Buddy Rogers, and there was a lot of guys that did the Gorgeous George kind of gimmick and different gimmicks through the wrestling years. But I can say one thing with a lot of pride: there was only one Bret Hitman Hart, and there was nobody that looked like him or was working that kind of gimmick before me. There was nobody that looked like me. No one worked like me. No one carried the same kind of promos. I believe I was the beginning of the shoot promo, or promos that were centered around making the title like so critical, and I think I changed a lot of things for the best, for the better in wrestling. I think the promos and a lot of things changed in my era and made a good. They took a different course that I think from Hulk Hogan and Iron Sheik and those guys that were kind of course, got the ball rolling, but they were more like cartoon characters, I think. And I think people identify with my characters as the first one that really talked. I talked to my character, to my wrestling fans and my audience, and expressed myself sort of one-to-one, whereas a lot of guys, like Hogan and whatnot, had a sort of a shtick that they did. And it was sort of and it was a great shtick, especially while it worked. But I mean, I think, there was a whole different kind of credibility that came with me being champion and being the star of WWE that I think is missing today.
Okay, and I'd like to say that you were doing podcasts before podcasts were actually cool. nowadays it seems that that's caught fire and just kind of really lit a fire under the wrestling industry, or at least the community-wise, because you see guys like Steve Austin, Chris Jericho, Jim Ross. Do you see yourself ever getting back into doing that again sometime?
Yeah, it's a possibility. I had fun while I was doing it, so it's a possibility.
I'm sure you got a lot of great stories to tell.
Yeah, I got a lot. I got a lot that I never even told.
Now, back in 2013, the Bret Hart Dungeon Collection DVD set was released. A phenomenal set. It featured many matches from that's been a part of your career. How much input did you personally have into what was actually seen on the set?
I had a lot to do with what was on there. The problem that we had was that there was a lot of stuff that I wanted to use that I couldn't get permission to use the footage from. So what we initially set out to do, there was a lot of footage that I had that we tried to get permission that we couldn't get permission for. So to me, it was always kind of, it was a really good collection, but there was a lot of stuff that I would like to have seen on there that was missing. And no fault to WWE, but just like New Japan had some of my stuff with Tiger Mask.
Gotcha.
I thought just the odd little bits and pieces of stuff that I've seen from England back in the 80s, and even Puerto Rico and just some of the places I wrestled. They have the footage and it's out there, and I tried to get permission to use it and ran into a lot of grief and a lot of red tape that in the end we couldn't do it, couldn't get everyone to work together. And WWE tried, I think, to reach out to New Japan and different people and get permission to use footage, and so that was sort of the only problem I had with it. What we did have in there I thought was pretty good. I love the fact that they got that Andre the Giant footage on there. I thought that was just for the memory of it. Little things that and the match I had with Andre, it doesn't stand out as like my greatest match or his greatest match or anything like that. But for the fact that we had never wrestled each other before, and that was kind of a, for me anyway, a total shock that I was wrestling Andre the Giant. I always was really very proud of the match. Kind of, I wrote about it in my book without knowing that it would be on the DVD someday. But there's little cherries like that I'm glad are in there that make that DVD a good project.
Yeah, absolutely. I am a big fan of anytime you can kind of tell stories that resonate, and like you were mentioning with your promos, come from a real place. I think that connects with the fans. And one of the things that has kind of connected me even more so as a fan of yours is I had a chance to live in Canada a couple of years ago, and it was a great experience. But they're pretty crazy about hockey up there. It's not a stereotype. And one of the most fascinating things about you, my friend, is you had a association with the Calgary Hitman. How did that come about, and how did that relationship work with the hockey team?
Well, I was became friends with a bunch of guys that wanted to get together and put a junior hockey team here in Calgary. And so Theo Fleury was one of the guys that was in that initial group of investors that came to me, and they wanted me to be part of the team. And it's just something I kind of entertained in the beginning and thought it would be a good idea. And then, they had a meeting one time, and I think it was Theo Fleury that suggested that they call the team the Hitman, the name after me, that it would be a good tie-in with my character and my wrestling persona, and at the same time be a really cool hockey name for the team. And I remember saying I thought it was a great idea and a good name for the team also. And so we all had a vote, and everyone voted it in. And the next thing we knew, we were called the Hitmen, and they named the team after me. And I was one of the owners for, I think, the first 3-4 years, 5 years, but eventually a bunch of the owners, like Theo Fleury and Joe Sakic, famous player like played in Colorado and won the Stanley Cup a few times. He was another one of the owners. They eventually wanted out of the ownership, and after a few years, we all sold our interest in it to the Calgary Flames, and they're the owners of the Calgary Hitman right now. But I have a great relationship with them, and I still like to think I'm part of the team. I can go down and visit the boys in the dressing room any night I want, and I got my season's tickets, and I go to a lot of the games, and I like to go down and visit the players and give my pep talk every now and then. I feel very close with the team, and I always have. They've been a really good, feisty, competitive team right from the start, and every year they give a good season. They always give a hard effort, and I love that about junior hockey.
All right, and in the 90s, you got to take part in many great television series. You got to be part of Lonesome Dove, and even I got to say, I loved your appearance on The Simpsons. Still one of my favorites. What was that whole experience like for you, getting to be working with these television shows, and could we possibly see the Hitman on TV again in the future?
Oh, it's always a possibility. I have always had a lot of fun with different roles. I actually always liked comedy. I enjoyed. I did a good bit on Mad TV with Will Sasso. Those guys one time. But the Mad TV will always be the probably thing that I always think 400 years from now, maybe 500 years from now, no one will know anything about my wrestling career, but they'll know all about Bret Hart from the Simpsons show, So, nobody will watch the match or see me in a ring or anything, but they'll know all about me from Simpsons, and I'm grateful for that. I was very honored to be on the show right from the start. It was a big honor.
You were actually speaking about your matches against Tiger Mask in Japan, and Japanese wrestling, as we know, is anything but a walk in the park, it seems, which is probably most definitely an understatement. How was it like working in Japan, and who stood out the most as one of your best opponents over in the land of the rising sun?
Well, the Japanese were always really good technical wrestlers, especially execution-wise. Even anybody learn wrestling today, if you want to learn how to do a backbreaker, you watch a Japanese guy do it. If you want to learn how to do a certain move, you watch a Japanese guy do it. They execute everything very perfectly. They're very well taught and very disciplined, and usually pretty good athletes. And the style when I was over in Japan was kind of dog eat dog sometimes, and it was the Japanese had a way of turning any kind of wrestling match into a struggle or a shoot or kind of a half fight, instead of trying to work together and build a match together like American style. But Japanese style, at the same time, there was great wrestlers there that had great psychology. Guys that influenced me a lot were Antonio Inoki and Tatsumi Fujinami were two guys that really, I think they were two of the greatest wrestlers of all time, both of them. And, Tiger Mask himself was a one-of-a-kind original, and I was honored to have worked with him. All in all, I have nothing but good things to say about the Japanese wrestlers. I think I love them for their technique, but I think I would try to teach them a little bit more in psychology.
There you go.
Yeah. Now, Bret, recently, I guess it was about a month ago now, Stone Cold Steve Austin had a chance to sit down with Vince McMahon to do a podcast, and there was a comment that Mr. McMahon made about the current superstars in the locker room grabbing that brass ring, and he wanted to see them do more to get the brass ring. First of all, if you had a chance to see that or hear that, what did you think? And second of all, what did you do in your career in the WWF in order to get to that next level and ultimately to be a main eventer?
Well, I think, of course, grabbing the brass ring is easier said than done, and it's I think the same. I mean, I like to think even back years ago when when I was started in WWE, everything was built around Hulk Hogan and the muscle men guys from that era like Orndorff and the Warrior and even Psycho Sid and a lot of those kind of guys were all big muscle bound kind of guys, and it changed in in my generation, and that was a blessing for me. I think that there's different sort of genres that had different styles, and those guys came, and my era came, and I think it was a really positive era. There was a lot of when I look back on those days, like when I fought with Steve Austin and things like that, the promos came across like we really hated each other, and that there was a real bad blood and animosity between us, when the reality was that we had great psychology together and a great understanding of how to have great matches, and Steve was one of the first-rate professionals I ever worked with. But I think going back to your question, the wrestling business has changed a lot, and it's not so easy. And I think back in sort of the 80s, or I would say early 90s, I think they were looking for, Vince was looking then in the same sort of situation like John Cena. They're looking for somebody to pull the sword out of the stone and be the next the next big thing in wrestling. And they've had Cena around for a long time, and I'm not saying that he's finished or anything like that, because he's not. But I think at the same time they're looking for the next guy, whoever it is, to pull the sword out of the stone and be the superstar that is going to carry the company in the next era, and I think Cena's done his part and is still doing his part, but they haven't found the workhorse or the one guy to sort of tag everything on and make him the sort of the new star of the company. CM Punk probably was that guy, but they didn't handle him right, and they didn't take care of him, I guess. There's issues there on both sides.
Okay, and I to go ahead and conclude, Hitman, I want to say, for you to give us this time to chat with you about your amazing career and what you've been doing even up to now. I do. Before we let you go, if you have anything that you want to plug, maybe upcoming appearances or any social media that you might want to throw out there, your website, by all means. But we can't thank you enough for coming on the show and giving us your time. It is an honor, sir. And please, if you have any plugs, go ahead.
No, I don't have anything. Just appreciate all the fans that still, are interested in what I have to say about wrestling, and I hope that they'll get a chance to see me in person sometime. So it's great to.
I can say it was an honor to meet you. I did meet you in 2005. Actually, I met you in 2005, and it was an honor, sir. I hope to meet you again someday soon.
All right, me too. Well, that's a great way to end it.
There you go, sir. Have a great night. Thank you so much.
All right, you take care, guys.
Thank you.
Take care now. There you have it, folks. The best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be, has now graced Pipebomb Radio. In the airwaves of Pipebomb Radio will never be the same again. Any words, guys? Any words
way. At all? Well, man, it's have a guy like Bret Hart.
Can we breathe now? Is it okay to breathe?
And we have to give a big shout out to Oscar from Men on a Mission, our partners on Thursday night. Oscar, big shout out to you for helping set this up. We couldn't have done it without you, pal. You're definitely a very valuable asset to the team, and thank you so much. But hopefully you all enjoyed that. We tried to definitely ask as many great questions that aren't questions that are normally asked of him. He gets asked so many questions that are so much basically the same thing. They're asking him everything over and over when you can go back and listen to other interviews that he's done. We wanted to mix it up a little bit. And I think I really feel confident that we did that. I really do.
Yeah. And if you guys want any insight, the people who are listening tonight, when we based this interview, we really said the questions and everything. We wanted to make it something that wasn't like anything you have heard in the past, because obviously, man, and in every single Bret Hart interview that I've listened to, they have to talk about a screw job every single time. It's like having you heard the whole entire story. They even made a DVD on it. I'm sure he knows that people know it went down and everything, and I'm sure he has opinions on it, but we've heard it. And not that it's always interesting to hear, but we wanted to change it up to kind of mix it up here tonight and ask some questions that he normally didn't get asked in interviews in the past, or maybe things that he he hasn't been referred to.
Yeah, and, like you're saying, you don't want to go the cliche route. You don't want to ask him things that he's been asking millions of times because, like you mentioned, Felix, he is one of the most documented superstars, not just of this era, but of any era. And, it was just really cool to sit down with Bret, man, to have a chat and ask him some different things, like about the Calgary Hitman or about his acting and, just to have a good, cool conversation with one of the all-time greats. So, it was a pleasure to do it, an honor to do it. Again, a big shout-out to Oscar, and we hope you guys out there listening enjoyed the conversation.
There you go. There you go. That. What more can you say on that note? It was definitely the way we wanted to kick off 2015, and what better way to do it? What better person to do it? And we've done it. We look forward to keep doing big surprises for you guys moving forward. We will touch on this right now. As I mentioned last month, the Von Erich Nation will be in full effect once again. This time, the sons, Ross and Marshall, the next generation of the Von Erich family, will be gracing Pipebomb Radio. They will be returning to the show for the first time in, it has been a little over a year and a half, really. Mm-hmm. But the boys will be back with us next Tuesday night as our guests. And hopefully, and who knows? You never know. Big Papa Kevin might be lurking around in the background.
So I guess the boys are back in town.
Ooh, that's a good song to go out to.
You know what to say that.
I give you credit, Austin. That's not a recent musical reference, so I give you credit for that.
Well, I try to be creative. I really do. I mean, how else I would have defeated Oscar of Men on a Mission, the rap battle we had a couple months ago.
Oh, here we go.
To be honest with you, I mean, Eminem can't hold a candle to me. Not many people can, and I challenge anybody because I'm the Rap Master Blaster. Okay?
Rap Master Blaster.
What a disaster.
Yeah. Holy frijoles, senor.
And, you forgot to mention this, but, tomorrow night, I believe it's just the 10 p.m. Central.
Good thing you mentioned that. Go ahead, Austin.
Standard, yeah. Nigel McGuinness. If you talk about great wrestlers in the world, I mean, Bret Hart, one of the most phenomenal wrestlers in history ever. Nigel McGuinness in his own right, one of the best wrestlers I've ever seen in my entire life. And tomorrow he's coming on to talk about LA Fights. LA Fights is a 6-episode series that's focused on wrestling, but I mean, he's changing the genre into something that we've never witnessed before. And I can't say everything, all the details right now, but I can guarantee they're all on LAFights.com. And you can check it out there and donate on the Kickstarter campaign as much as you can, and it's always going to help out because in order to actually make this happen, it's over $300,000. So I mean that's a good chunk of change, and we can't do it without you guys. So it's LAFights.com.
There you go. Tomorrow the Pipebomb Radio ain't over yet, folks. We got coming back tomorrow night. What you think about that? That's right. All righty, and for that matter, I got to plug this too because they're back. The boys are the Thursday night boys are back. How about that, Austin? Well, no, I can't even say boys. The Thursday night team, because we can't forget Dreamy Mimi. She be doing the Raw reports and giving a woman's insight on professional wrestling. Who better to do it than Dreamy Mimi? She's had quite a few stars already now.
Wait a minute.
Thursday night.
Reason you just mentioned people who are back in town. If you're mentioning who's back in town, you got to mention the Authority.
Oh, Jesus. I was hoping you wouldn't go there. I
I always go there. What do you got, pointers? I mean, the Authority's back in town.
And I would rather they go back on vacation.
Really? Come on, Nate. You won't agree with this Felix here. Come on.
I actually agree with Brother Felix.
I can't get behind Ross.
Back way too soon.
I can't get. It's not even so much that. It was obviously we talked about that last week. It was being a huge issue that way too soon. But it was a glorified punish the Team Cena show. That's all it was. The whole theme of the damn show was, excuse my language, but was to punish all of Team Cena and then make Cena look like a fool.
He was,
and everybody was expecting this big storyline. But I have a feeling that it's more so involving this issue with Team Cena still. I have a feeling they're going to go somewhere with this, and will eventually lead to Sting returning to television in coming weeks. Of course, probably most likely after the Royal Rumble.
The Vigilante you're talking about?
I'm talking about the WCW legend, the Icon.
Oh, the Icon Sting. They're the one that
man they call Sting.
They didn't mess up anything because the authorities back in town, and John Cena, you think he was portrayed as a fool at the end of the night. They were partying. There was confetti dropping from the ceiling, balloons. Don't you love that, Nate, when you had balloons at your birthday party?
It was the most ridiculous, revolting scene I had ever seen in my life, and it was the first time I wanted to puke after watching Raw.
That was fantastic. I wish I was there with the Authority, and I will be there next week. Raw's in New Orleans, and I'll be with the Authority. Royalty. Seth Rollins.
I will say this, Austin. I have to give you credit here because you're the one that pushed me to do it.
Thank you.
Shut up. You didn't even know what I'm going to say yet. And he's already saying thank you. You see this boy, Nate? What are we going to do with this boy? We've got to train this boy here or something.
I don't know.
Train. Thanks for giving me some credit.
My reference was getting to is that because I was just so disappointed with Raw, I was actually watching Wrestle Kingdom 9. And I have to say I was very impressed with the show. I know Austin would have preferred that I watch the Japanese version, but how can you watch a wrestling show and not have Jim Ross calling the action? What's up with that? It was a slobber knocker.
Mm-hmm.
It was a slobber knocker type pay-per-view. All of them got stomped around like a government mule.
I don't know if any government mules were there.
Well, there were a few. I'm kidding.
Well, I know Matt Striker at the end of the night goes, "Oh my gosh, I'm marking out, bro." After a New Japan Pro Wrestling heavyweight title match between Okada and Hiroshi Tanahashi, he goes, "I'm marking out, bro." I love Matt Striker, but
Matt Striker is a wrestling fan at heart. He's a wrestling fan at heart, and as far as the analyst goes, he may not be the greatest, but he's funny as hell when I listen to him because it's just him coming out as a fan, really.
And I love that. But I mean, he's beside Jim Ross, and if you heard the New Japan Pro Wrestling show this past Sunday night, Wrestle Kingdom 9, they were kind of conflicting, between each other, because I think Jim Ross was kind of getting a little ticked off at Matt Striker at times. But I mean, at the end of the night, they really, they meshed well in some places, and in other places, not so much. I think they both, they had to get comfortable to the New Japan Wrestling. And as a whole, it's a strong style, is a different type of show to call. It's nothing like WWE, and that's what people, get off wrong by saying that. New Japan Pro Wrestling and WWE are, one and the same. They're not. They're totally different things. You have to watch it, and I'm recommending the show 10 times over. In JPW World, I was so surprised people were spending $35 to watch this pay-per-view, and hey, I would spend $60, or even more so to watch this pay-per-view. It was one of the best I've ever seen. But New Japan Pro Wrestling World.com, $8, and you can watch every single show, past, present, future, anything, $8 a month. WWE Network can't touch it for that price.
$9.99, man. Come on, you were plugging it all but the Authority at $9.99 this, $9.99 that. Come on, Cole, keep up with it.
I think you can make the argument that New Japan this year and last year and maybe the year before, like they've had a really good string of putting together shows, of just having some of the best talent in the world, and it's good that they're starting to open up some eyes on this side of the water, because I think that, when you got guys like AJ Styles, and you got guys like Okada, when you have so much talent in that company, it deserves to be seen on a global scale.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Definitely agreed. And it was great to see Jeff Jarrett back in action. I hadn't seen that guy. I've been a fan of his for a number of years, and see him in the King and the Queen of the Mountain back in the ring again. Well, I haven't seen him. I wouldn't know. I've probably seen him more times than I have.
Gosh, reminds me of Triple H and Stephanie. What a cute couple.
Actually, I'd be more of a fan of Mr. and Mrs. King of the Mountain, and I refer to the Jarretts than I refer to the Levesques or the McMahon-Levesques.
Come on, Felix, turn new leaf. Remember all the people saying, new year, new me. Go back to the Authority. The Authority side is always going to be right. And he's saying that John Cena, the most powerful man.
I swear he was like a kid with his rattle. Yay, shaking the rattle. My mommy and daddy are back. Yay!
I know. Seth Rollins.
Oh my God, ridiculously annoying. And then they put him in the triple threat. for the WWE title?
Totally deserved. He's going to beat him out. John Cena, Brock Lesnar, they have no chance. Seth Rollins, the undisputed future
Brock Lesnar,
of the
really?
WWE.
The Beast Incarnate? You don't think he has a chance?
Oh, wait. Oh, hold on. You know, actually, I forgot to mention, you know, he might. I don't know. I don't think Seth might not have a chance because he did beat The Undertaker, the immortal phenom, the dead man. Undertaker.
I opened that door, Nate, didn't I?
Yeah,
you
walked
remember
into that one.
Felix? Just want to know. I mean, I think Seth Rollins has a ace up his sleeve because the Beast can't see what he doesn't know.
Well, I think it makes an interesting twist on it. Go ahead, Austin. Oh, go ahead, Nate. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think we're going to say the same thing. It brings up an interesting question because there's a lot of different ways they could go with this. And even let's say Brock or Cena wins, Rollins still has that Money in the Bank. So at the end of the night, he could walk out with the title.
Yeah, that's very true. And it all depends on how they want a main event WrestleMania this year in Northern California. You know, will it either be with the Beast or will it be with the one who proclaims himself to be the future?
He's not proclaiming. He is the future.
He is proclaiming because it ain't the future yet. Because until he can get past John Cena, and it's sad for me to say that because unfortunately he is the ring bearer at this point. He is the man with the man of the hour, the man with the power too sweet to be sour. He's standing on top of the mountain. He ain't going anywhere anytime soon, unfortunately.
Nope.
Creative, huh?
I try to be, you know. He's not a superstar Billy Graham, he's not a Hulk Hogan, but he's definitely something special for these guys this generation.
And, you know, I wanted to mention, we didn't mention on Wrestle Kingdom 9, and I don't know how long both of you have been following New Japan Pro Wrestling, but Shinsuke Nakamura is the man. He's always been the man. I mean, but I think he's especially within the last 5 years, he's really, I mean, he's the most eccentric person I've ever seen in my life. I made a comment live on Twitter during Wrestle Kingdom 9 saying you can move your hands to your ears like Hulk Hogan, but you can't quite move your face like Nakamura. That's an understatement. That guy is insane, but I love him. That match against Ibushi was probably one of the best matches I've ever seen in my entire life. And there's a lot of matches I've seen.
So what we're going to say is kudos to Jeff Jarrett and New Japan Pro Wrestling for pulling off one hell of a show. And of all cases, the icing on the cake, having good old JR calling the action. That was the icing on the cake for me.
You know, one thing I mentioned.
Oh, go for it.
Well, the Royal Rumble's in like 2 weeks. We got to know what's your pick. Who's going to win the Royal Rumble, the 2015 Royal Rumble? Will it be Daniel Bryan?
You know, they were saying it was going to be Roman Reigns, but now I'm having my doubts. With Bryan coming back, you know, and then people are complaining about Roman's in-ring promos or promos in general. Could he be the man? Could he be the man of the hour for 2015? Could he be just a man of the 15 minutes of fame? I don't know. Any thoughts, Nate? Who do you think is going to leave the Rumble with as the winner?
Yeah, I think Roman's definitely the guy that the company wants to push, and he's great in the ring. He's got the great physical charisma, but he's not the best on the mic. That promo he had on Raw this past week where he's like doing all the Superman quotes, I'm faster than a speeding bullet, pew pew. Like, no, I don't need that from my top baby face. But you do have a thing with Bryan coming back where you might end up with the same situation we had last year where Batista was the guy, but the fans didn't take to him because they wanted Daniel Bryan. So I don't know, man. I think it depends on who wins the Rumble is probably going to tell us who's going to win the title match. Because if Roman Reigns wins the Rumble, I think Brock's going to win the title, or Rollins is going to win the title. One of those two. It won't be Cena. But if Daniel Bryan wins the Rumble, I think you can go Rollins, you can go Cena, or you can go Brock. So that's it's going to be interesting. But if I had to bet money, which I'm trying not to do in 2015, I'd probably bet my money on Superman Reigns.
Wait a minute, Nate. You're saying you don't like when he says "believe that"? Remember when he said that? That was
yeah. He hasn't left the Shield shadow yet.
Love
believe
that.
Believe that. We stole from Martin Lawrence, by the way. Martin Lawrence said that in Blue Streak.
He didn't take it from Martin Lawrence.
True.
Martin Lawrence took it from Roman Reigns. Don't tell me, oh, well, it was before Roman Reigns. You know what? Have a nice day. I'll have a bunch of different situations to tell you how Roman Reigns did it before him. But besides that, my
Roman Reigns was still in high school when this movie came out.
Maybe Felix. I don't see that.
I know how old this kid is. He's younger than me. He's younger than Nate. He's older than you, but then everybody is.
Yeah, everybody is. But my pick for the Royal Rumble 2015, the winner. There's so many contenders here. There's so many people I can say, but in the inner person inside of me, I don't know. My spirit's saying Daniel Bryan. I want to see him versus Brock because if you think about it, their in-ring styles are kind of similar. They have that MMA type of style, kicks, punches, and everything else. And to see that on a stage like WrestleMania for the WWE Championship would be remarkable. I would love to see that. And I just the things they can do in that ring, I don't even know. It's going to be crazy because Brock. You think people give it enough credit to Brock? I don't think he does. I don't think he gets nearly enough credit that he deserves for how good of a performer he is. Even if he doesn't wrestle 7 billion times per year.
The obvious picks would be going with Daniel or with Roman, but why not Adam Rose? Don't be a lemon, be a rosebud. I was kidding, by the way.
What about the bunny?
Hey, that's another idea. Well, we'll see for how long. For all we know, they might even put Hornswoggle in the damn Rumble, and Minnie, and then little El Torito. What if they won it? Oh, geez. God, what a thought. But if I had to choose one, I would like to say I don't want to follow the crowd choices, the obvious choices, which those two would be the ones I just mentioned. But what if they wanted to do something different and they give it to a guy like Bray Wyatt?
Mm-hmm.
And if he wanted to go into this, he's not caring about no titles. He wants to be this new enigma, the new phenom, if you will. And he challenges The Undertaker. Not necessarily for the streak, but for a match. To determine who truly is the one and only phenom of the WWE.
That sounds interesting because I never heard, and this is what I wanted, this is why I was saying, and it's probably not happening now because I think the plans have changed for Sting, the Vigilante, going in the Royal Rumble and winning it, but what if... No,
that ain't going to happen.
No, well, remember the whole stipulation is if you win the Royal Rumble, you get to challenge the World Heavyweight Champion at WrestleMania. Yeah. But what if Bray Wyatt turns the tables and he goes, well, I don't need any titles. I'm immortal already. Why even go any further? I want to challenge the Undertaker. I want the Undertaker at WrestleMania.
Well, see, initially that could have been a thought to go with if Sting had actually won it, and wanted to go with that, the idea of facing the Undertaker, had they decided to keep the streak intact, and say, these two have been the cornerstones of their company for over 2 decades, 3 decades. Why not put it all on the line and see who the true enigma really is? But that's okay. That doesn't mean that this can't be something that could be, because I know, if I'm not mistaken, I've heard that Undertaker is actually a fan of the Bray Wyatt character, which a lot of people are. And what a concept at this point, because they're obviously going forward with the idea of Sting versus Triple H, which I guess Triple H, he just being the boss, he feel like he had to have first dibs at the Icon, which is fine. I don't see that them two not having a good match. I really think they can put on a great match. Where the story goes between these two, well, I'm curious to see where that'll go if they don't poo-poo on this too with their authority crap and overloading it with too much of beat downs for no apparent reason whatsoever, which make no sense, and then firing 3 stars on top of that to boot, which made absolutely no sense, none. Just showing them them throwing their power around like they always did. Because it makes no sense. It makes no sense. No, it kind of doesn't.
Well, it kind of does, because I can tell you why. Dolph Ziggler,
by all means, that wasn't going to stop you.
And Ryback, they're disrespecting the authority. And when you disrespect the authority, you're going to get taken down whether you like it or not, and that's just life. And it's best for business.
That is just their way of trying to get back at people who turned against them. That's all it was. Who the hell cares? I mean, get over it. You all came back way too soon anyway. Get a life. Get a break.
I don't think so.
And honestly, if you talk about
that?
Sting, I think they missed the best opportunity. You know, you don't want to have Sting on every week, but I think he should be popping up every now and then. And a good place for him to do it, you know, I just came to my mind thinking about where we're at now with this authority angle. Go back a week when Rollins is about to curb stomp on Edge, and Cena's stuck outside the ring. He doesn't know what he wants to do. Just have the lights go out. Lights come back on. Sting's in the middle of the ring. Cleans house. The authority is still not back. Sting disappears. And we're like, why does Sting have this problem with the authority to get the story going?
Something to get it going. I imagine they want to wait until after the Rumble, to be honest. But, I mean, it just seems logical for them to think that after the Rumble, the road to WrestleMania truly begins, I guess.
I think what Nate's saying is, I think it'd be pretty interesting if they went that route. But being the presence that Sting is, and the presence he carries to the ring, I don't think he wouldn't even have to be at Raw for it to happen. I just think they would have to flashlights off, and then everybody is all of a sudden, separate.
I was going to say, I thought you were going to say he was going to do those via satellite interviews or something. We got that from The Rock. We don't need that from Sting.
This is the icon via satellite. The Rock, can you do it? Can you smell what I'm cooking? No, you can't, because I'm on the other side of the screen somewhere else. But Sting is going to be in the rafters someday, somehow, looking over Triple H, and it's going to be the franchise versus the true franchise Triple H at WrestleMania 31. I'm seeing it, and I know who's going to win. I know what your money's on.
The reason I say about the Raptors thingy is because I really think they're going to stay clear of that. That's still a very sensitive subject for a lot of people, and I don't even have to go into why.
A real bad thing.
Well, no, and rightfully so. At this point, they've steered clear of that for the last 16 years.
Yeah.
They haven't really made, at least to my recollection, and if I'm wrong, it wouldn't be the first time, but it just seemed better that they stayed away from it and just kind of continue on that way, and not so much dragging back the old WCW version of him. But if they were to show him up in the rafters, that's one thing. Coming down, nah, not gonna happen.
There's a reason.
I agree.
Yeah, nosebleeds, when you're up in that. And the thing is, blood can't be allowed on WTV after 2006, I believe, or 2008. After blood, isn't allowed on TV. I believe Sting, if he would, happen to get a nosebleed while he's up in the rafters, that would be, not good for business. Triple H and Stephanie would not be too happy about that. I know them,
Yeah, I'm sure you do, you bootlicker.
Those boots are laced with gold, And
I'm sure you know the taste.
Tastes like a Subway tuna melt.
There you go. All things considered, the Rumble time has always been one of my favorite times of the year. Really, because you just never know. You just never know who's going to pop up in the Rumble. We've seen Piper and Snuka go at it in the Rumble years ago. We've seen the return of Big Daddy Cool Diesel. We saw the return of Karma. We saw the entrance of Michael Cole, JBL, for the brief 2 seconds until he was in there.
You're not mentioning the battle between Santino Marella and Mick Foley, Socko versus the Cobra.
I was trying to forget about that
one. Really? Come on. That was one of the greatest moments I've ever seen in my entire life.
Wow.
I think that's probably a big point about the Rumble. Like, as bad as, I won't say Raw has been totally bad, but last week's show really wasn't that good in my opinion. But the Rumble is one pay-per-view that really doesn't need a whole lot of build-up because regardless of what's going on with the stories, that one match is going to be awesome.
Mm. And, if you want to talk about Rumbles, Bret Hart is a winner of 2 Royal Rumble matches in his career.
No, just one.
I thought it was 2. Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure it's just one. It was the only ones who've won 2 that I know of is Shawn Michaels, Hogan. Austin is the only one to ever win 3. Bret's only won one, and that was a co-winner in '94 with Luger.
Yep, with Luger.
Look back on it, and if I'm wrong, please bring it to my attention. I will come on and fully admit I'm wrong. I ain't afraid to admit it. I ain't the smartest mofo out there. Austin seems to think he is.
Thanks, give me some credit.
Hey, well, you know more about it, a lot of things than I do. I'm not afraid to admit it. I ain't the smartest out there, but hey, I'll do my best.
You know what I was thinking? I'm sorry. You know, Felix, you're right, okay? But I guess I was thinking of King of the Ring.
Wait a minute. He just said I was right about something. I cannot believe it. I got to mark it down on my calendar.
Christmas Miracle 2 weeks later.
I'm saying.
I was thinking about King of the Ring. You're right, okay? He won it with Flex, I believe, in 1994, right? Besides that, he won a Rumble. He knows what it takes in order to outlast 30 other guys. And I believe, with all the current and new superstars that are in WWE, it's going to be an interesting Rumble match. But what I'm interested in seeing is, and I think everybody's interested in seeing Kofi Kingston pull off that every single, at least I think it's the last 5 or 6 Rumble matches, he's pulled off some of those crazy, he gets eliminated. You think he's going to be eliminated, but he finds a way to, get back to the ring, which is always interesting to see because you never know how he's going to do it. It's a new day. It's a new day.
No,
everybody.
Don't mention that group. No. I'm not really thrilled with the direction this group is going. I'm sorry.
No, me neither.
Epic fail.
You mean epic fail? You want to talk about the Ascension?
Oh, God. Let's not go there. That one was another foot-in-the-mouth disease if I ever saw one.
They are terrible.
They are not terrible.
And then to bring up the audacity to bring up 2 of the greatest tag teams, Demolition and for that matter, Legion of Doom. Hell.
Yeah.
Come on now. Those 2 guys couldn't even lace up these dudes' boots or carry their jock strap for that matter.
You're kidding. You don't understand. And I've heard so much from different people over the past days. And listen.
Not everybody's a fan of Demolition, and people think that LOD is overrated, and that's fine. They can think that.
No, I'm not saying they're overrated. I think, I'm giving them their credit. They are one of 2 of the most greatest tag teams of all time that have been around the world. But it comes a time where in the future there's going to have to be guys that take it to the next level. The Ascension are going to, and whether you guys like it or not, they're going to go on and become one of the most successful tag teams of all time. And that's nothing against the Road Warriors or Demolition. They've had their time.
I don't know if that's a wise choice.
They were great. I don't know. No, everybody has their day. People were angry at Demolition after the Road Warriors because they thought that they're taking their what the Road Warriors are doing.
I remember that.
So
right.
This is kind of the same thing that's happening, but it's they're thinking they're taking after 2 different teams. But I think they're cool in their own right because they're their own version of them, but they're not the same. They're nothing like the Road Warriors Demolition. So I don't see how people are saying they're doing comparison. I don't think they are. The Ascension, they're going to go on to be successful, really successful, beyond successful.
Only time will tell. Because at this point, there hasn't the way they've been introducing some of these newbies hasn't been that great.
Yep.
It hasn't been the thrill. It's almost like and you can take my word for it or not, Austin. You know better than anybody. The difference in the crowd reactions from Raw and NXT. NXT crowds are involved. They are overjoyed. They're just insane. The crowds for some of the Raws and SmackDowns, it's almost non-existent. And it's a shame.
You got to keep in mind.
Those are 2 of the best shows, the A and B show, if you will.
We got to keep in mind that NXT is a...
It's just not. It's just the feeling's not there. And then when they come onto the main roster, fans are like, "Who are these guys?" Which is why it goes back to my original idea. Well, it wasn't my original, but what about putting NXT on TV again? Not just leaving it solely to the WWE Network. People want to see the new generation. They'll get familiar. They'll feel the characters out. They'll pick sides, who they like, who they don't like. Introduce them to the fans again. Fans don't all have access to the WWE Network, but if you give them the chance to watch, they'll watch.
Well, that's the whole entire thing. You have to keep in mind that NXT is its own presence, in itself. People who watch it, the fans who are there, they're loyal. The ones who actually attend the tapings and watch the shows, they're the ones who know exactly what's going on and who's who. And when you bring it to a main event level like the WWE on Raw or SmackDown, it changes the landscape because you don't entirely. Most of the people with like 15,000 per Raw or SmackDown show might not watch the WWE Network or watch NXT or even watch.
If they put the NXT in the format that they had it on TV a few years ago, then no, I don't blame them. I wouldn't watch it either.
Well, no, I'm saying if you put in
I'm just saying. Go ahead, Austin. You were making your point.
It was Sami Zayn and Kevin Steen. If you wouldn't watch Ring of Honor, you would have no clue at all what the deal was. Why were they angry at each other? Why were people so excited? That's why I'm thinking
that's just an idea to go with right there. Is to push that feud as their biggest feud of the year going into 2015 because these two have the history. They have they know how to put on a match to get fans involved. You know better than anybody, Austin. That's
what I'm saying. The thing is about that, people who have not watched Ring of Honor or independent wrestling in the past would have no clue that Sami and Kevin Steen were rivals. But now they, after watching NXT and seeing, they kind of realize that they had a past together because they mentioned it a couple times. But still, people who don't watch Ring of Honor or independent wrestling in general would have no clue why they were mad at each other, happy, and then all of a sudden Kevin turns Kevin Owens turns on Sami Zayn. So, it's all, I think it's pretty intricate, but at the same time, people who watch NXT don't necessarily watch, it's crazy to say this, but people who watch NXT don't necessarily watch Raw or SmackDown. I've seen situations like that where they're only watching NXT.
That's a very good point. When they brought Emma to the main roster, I knew her from NXT and the fans. The fans loved her there, but she got little to very little or no reaction when she first debuted. And they put her with Santino to try to get her over, and then they just keep her kind of out of sight, out of mind, and they kind of revolve it around the Bellas and Paige, and now they're putting in this new Divas thing with the Total Divas now that Paige and Miss Foxy are on there now, and
I want to hear
what happened to the days of Sensational Sherry, to Medusa, to even I could even say Nora Greenwald, better known as Molly Holly.
No, you guys are getting all wrong. There's the past was a past. There's never going to be another.
And maybe there won't be. But at the same time, it doesn't necessarily have to be tits and ass. Is my point. I'm sorry to have to come and be blunt like that, but not everybody always. Some people may want to watch ladies wrestle, believe it or not, and they don't have to be half naked to do it.
And I think NXT is doing that, and I think that's the future because
right.
Charlotte and Sasha Banks are, oh my God, they're two of the best women wrestlers I've ever seen. And excluding talking about Natalya, obviously she's one of the best as well, Paige. But
and also misused in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. And but
Nate,
Nate,
I actually want to bring to your attention, guys. We do have a caller calling in. He is definitely unique in his own aspect and viewpoints because he's hilarious, but he's also a wrestling legend, the one and the only, Sir Mo.
What's up, guys? How y'all doing?
Sir Mo.
Oh, man, you guys having a serious conversation, ain't you?
We just have our viewpoints, and it tends to get a little. We try to express it. We go back and forth, myself and Austin, or even Austin and Nate.
Right.
Nate sometimes has some opinions Austin don't agree with.
Yeah.
And, Austin he gets involved, and he's passionate about what he likes. I put it that way.
Well, and that's okay. Austin would be considered the future generation of professional wrestling.
Absolutely.
You and I would be the old generation of professional wrestling. In our thought process, I was just kind of sitting back listening to what you guys were discussing, and I want to say something about the Ascension, man.
Please do.
I don't want to sound like I don't have confidence in anybody, but that gimmick in its present form will go nowhere.
And why do you feel that way?
Well, first of all, first of all, you can't compare their talent to LOD. You can't compare it to Demolition because they're nowhere near the talent level of those guys. I mean,
fair, so, yeah. That's a fair deal.
When they're nowhere near that, and people are they're comparing them not so much about the work as much as they are just the look, the almost shoulder pads, the face paint, the bald hair, but in that present gimmick, I think that they put them in that gimmick, man. More for shock value than anything, because if you take the paint off and if you take the shoulder pads off, you know what I mean? If you take the look away, you don't have anything. I'm sorry to say that, but you don't have anything. It's not like either one of those guys, can do one third of the stuff that a Daniel Bryan can do in the ring. They don't have that wrestling ability. I mean, O'Brien, he went through developmental twice, bruh. He went through it one time, got fired, and he came back years later and just went through it again. This is 2014, and I think he went back in there. He's been down there another 3 or 4 years?
Well, Brian's been around for a while, but would it be safe to say that the lack of exposure with NXT not being on television and not everybody having access to the WWE Network, would it be best to maybe bring NXT to television so they can get familiar with the future generation of stars and maybe create a following for them?
I agree in one sense, and in another sense, I wouldn't agree simply because of the way they think. And NXT, if we bring NXT to
or could it take away the special effects that the special feeling you get when you watch the show?
It's good. Well, it's to be honest, if you bring it to national television, right?
Okay.
Whether it's on the same station, same channel, whatever, it's going to compete against Raw. No matter what you do,
I think it's going to show Raw up. It's going to really, because I think it's a better show.
And guess what? They're not going to let nothing show up the flagship, man. That's the reason.
They won't do that.
Right. They're not going to let nothing show up the flagship, man. You know what I mean? Because, putting NXT on television is not going to draw the advertising dollars that Raw draws, number one. Okay? Right. And if you bring NXT to national television, one of the two of those shows are going to suffer.
Yeah.
One of the two of those shows are going to suffer.
SmackDown now too.
Right, of course. I mean, SmackDown is surviving because the Sci-Fi Network needs something, bro.
Yeah.
They got to have something. You know what I mean? And that program right there gives them a lot of ratings. That's not to knock NXT or whatever, But I think that, man, we had, what was the guy we had on the program about a month or so ago from Missouri? He was Lance Cage's tag team partner.
Trevor Murdoch.
He didn't go to NXT.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He didn't spend 1 week in Florida. You know what I mean? They're Sting, Kevin Steen, for example. Man, he's already got a name for himself. He could have walked in the door. He could have walked in the door, went to a program with who's the golden child right now with the black and white hair? Not Rollins. Ambrose, but the other one, Rollins, right?
Rollins.
He could have walked in the door, and got stuck with that guy, and people would have, just equated that to, it wouldn't take one broadcast to equate that to Ring of Honor. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
The whole NXT thing, it's what people need to realize is the whole NXT thing for guys that's already been around for a while is a test, man. Yeah. It's a test. You go down there and you get reprogrammed to do it the WWE's way and not your way.
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
Some people pass that test, some people don't pass that test. CM Punk, for example, didn't pass that test because he did it their way for a little while, but then he finally said, you know what, screw that. I got my own brain, my own mind, and,
Yep.
There's a lot of talent down there, man. Don't get me wrong. There's a ton of talent down there. But you can't you can't just throw somebody on Raw and expect, it'd be like this. Here's the best example I can give you, man. You take Felix, right? You live in Southern California. Say everybody knows you. When they see you out and about, they know who you are. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say everybody knows you're this great, comedian from Southern California, and you performed all over Southern California, nowhere else but Southern California, and any comic club that you walk into, everybody knows you, and when you walk in the door, boom, there's an instant crowd reaction, right? All right, let's just say you get booked at a comedy show in North Carolina. You walk in the door. You walk in the door, do you think you get the same reaction?
And you don't hear nothing.
No, you won't hear a thing, man. You won't hear a pin drop, but if they bring you in, just like they brought the Ascension in, if they bring you in and have you beat up guys, you know what I mean? And I like the fact that they're beating up guys, but in my personal opinion, it's very sloppy. You know what I mean? It's very sloppy what they do. It's very sloppy. Their finisher is sloppy. I mean, you think about Perry Saturn and John Cronus when they do that eliminator, because that's all they're doing.
That's a good point.
Yep.
Right? If you look at it, that's all they're doing is an eliminator. Look at how Perry Saturn and John Cronus did that eliminator. Man, it looked like they killed you, man.
Mm-hmm.
It looked like they killed you, man.
But on a side note, Mo, we definitely want to throw out to you and those who were listening, obviously we mentioned it earlier tonight, the return of Nacho Mama's radio show coming back Thursday night. They got Zach Gowen and Gregory Irons coming to the show. You ready for that?
The Handicap Heroes. The Handicap Heroes.
Handicap Heroes.
I'm gonna hobble in on that one, buddy. I'm gonna hobble in on that one. Yeah, I'm excited to come back on the radio. I hope Oscar's in a right frame of mind. You guys know he lost his mother recently.
Yes, we do. We definitely send him our condolences and give him a big shout out today because he helped us set up an incredible interview with the Hitman, Bret Hart. We just had him on here a little over an hour ago. Incredible man. Bret's truly one of the greatest of all time, and an incredible talker, storyteller, and it was just a mind-blowing experience. It totally well worth the time, and we couldn't thank Oscar enough for that.
It's amazing. It's amazing when I talk to him. It's amazing the stuff that he remembers. Way back when. You know what I mean? And he remembers it like it was yesterday. It's not. It's not like he got a. He's an incredible individual, man.
Yes.
I mean, somebody of his name and his stature in the business. A year ago, I did a fundraiser to raise money to go in my fund for my kidney transplant. And of all the superstars that I contacted, I had 3 of them that came and worked the event for free. The only thing I had to pay for was hotel and transportation. Bret Hart, who normally gets well into, 4 big figures to show up somewhere, Tammy Sitch and Bushwhacker Luke all came,
Love Luke. He's awesome.
and didn't charge anything. Oh, that guy's amazing, man. He's absolutely
he's a great guy.
Yeah.
Funny man. We had him on last year.
Yes, sir.
For 2013, but he's a great guy.
That Austin kid, though, man. I think he would be a good writer, man. I think he's a very creative person. He got a very creative mind. You know what I mean?
You talking about this Austin, the Austin from this show?
Yeah, Austin Porsche. Yeah, that guy.
I think Austin James.
I think he would make a good writer. You know, I just think that I think that he would have to put his personal feelings aside when it comes to wrestlers, not think about who he's a fan of. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Of course.
And think more on the lines of what would sell. You know, what at the box office would sell tickets. You know, because wrestling fans, they have their favorites, man. But, you know, I mean, as we've seen, you know, some people you put in a top spot won't sell no tickets, man.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can put the belt on them and still they won't sell no tickets. You know?
If you look at a guy like John Cena, who's people, they say it all around the world, oh, I hate John Cena, and every single day you hear about it. Yet, guess who's the guy that's, you know, still at the top of his game for the most part, and people want to see him still. And yet, there's a lot of people that say
to see him.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that say they just want to be there.
But the thing about it is, they don't hate him. They don't hate him for the person that he is. They hate him for the fact that WWE has made him invincible, and they want to see somebody else come in. You know, it would be perfect in a perfect world. It would be perfect if he turned heel. You know what I'm saying? And then they elevated the right person as a babyface. I like Seth Rollins, but you know, man, here's my problem with Seth Rollins. You know, because it's not about work rate. You know what I mean? It's about when I look at Seth Rollins, he's not the kind of person that would scare me if I walked in a back alley and saw him. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? I mean, him picking up the mic saying, "Hey, man, you know, meet me down at the ring. I'll beat your ass." Da 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 da. No. You know what I mean? I mean, if you look at him, he don't look like, you know, no heel, no monster, nobody that will strike fear in you. And
look who's behind him.
Huh?
Look who's behind him. The Big Show, Kane. I mean, he has guys that are big guys that are behind him. So if he does, he knows that. I think the way he's positioned everything, I think he knows exactly what he's getting himself into. But he has guys like Kane and Big Show who are going to take him down if anybody tries to do anything to Seth Rollins.
Yeah, but you know what? That's not selling tickets either, bro. That's the whole point. That's to the point where it's not selling tickets. It's annoying. You know what I mean? Okay. For example, I mean, years ago when Ric Flair used to talk a lot of smack, and he always had the Horsemen behind him. But in all of their own right, when they beat you up, it looked like a legitimate beating. You get beat up by Kane or the Big Show, man. Come on, man. I mean, you just got to get back to, what sells tickets, man. And if those guys were selling tickets, man, they wouldn't be in a supporting role like that. They'd be on top.
Well, I think that's what kind of took the specialness away, the uniqueness away. And it was just like Chris DeJoseph was saying. If he were to book the Big Show, book him as a special attraction. That worked for Andre. I know it was a different time, but look at him. The man is a freaking giant. Why not book him as a special talent, special event? Once in the blue moon, he pops in and has great matches with whoever, maybe the top star, top heel, babyface, whatever. But if you show him on a constant basis, it takes away that specialness that about being a giant.
Not to mention all the goofy stuff they have him doing.
Mm-hmm.
True.
True. Did you see the goofy Christmas commercials? I mean,
let alone the SmackDown ones.
I mean, look, okay. Here's another thing, man. Here's another thing. I mean, maybe it's be me. It's just my personal opinion. But when I open up Raw on Monday night, the last thing I want to see is all the talent in the ring, heels and baby faces together, and there's no issues. And then you trying to convince somebody that everybody's got these problems with each other. Man, you can't set a fire. You can't set a fire in a spot. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You can't set a fire in a spot, put it out, and then try to set that fire in the same spot again while it's still wet.
Right.
It's not gonna work. You got all these baby faces and all these heels in the ring with John Cena, and he's apologizing because the authority is back. Ain't nobody. I mean, if I was a heel, I'd be glad the authority is back. If I was a babyface, I'd be upset at John Cena. Man, it was so peaceful around here without them. Everybody just standing around. I thought they was gonna do like a moment of silence, for Stuart Scott or something. That's what I was expecting. I wasn't expecting a speech from the authority.
Right.
I thought
one thing that I hate about these speeches, and it's, Triple H, you can say what you want about him. I think he's one of the past generation's top stars. But whenever in this role as the authority, he just talks down to the talent, and it makes me as a viewer like he's playing these guys like they're clowns. So why do I want to see these clowns fight the authority? Like he doesn't do them any favors giving these long 20-minute speeches about how much they suck.
Right. And it's like, okay, so what are they going to do about it?
Right.
It's like you're the boss and you're dangling somebody's job over their head by saying, your mama's a whore, your daddy's a prostitute. Now what are you going to do about it? You're either going to kick my ass or you're going to lose your job. Which one? What are you going to do?
Mm-hmm.
And, doesn't it make them look like punks? Like you said. You beating them up, you're talking down to everybody. And then you're expecting the fans to be like, I know it's sports entertainment, but come on, man. People still want to believe.
Like the way the show went off on Monday, you had John Cena, 3 of his boys just got fired, and he just going to stand there. Like if you're supposed to be the hero, why don't you do something about it?
Yeah. Why are you just standing there and letting the confetti drop?
He was enjoying the moment.
If I was them and I just got fired because of this dude, I would have been beating his ass. If we're gonna make it look real, if I just got fired, I would. Come on, y'all just, and none of them standing there looking with a look on their face like, man, I just got fired for real.
Right.
Come on, man. I don't get it, man. I don't. They need to do something about them writers, man, because they're writing crap, bro.
Oh, yeah.
That show sucked, man. That show sucked.
I think it's obvious when you have people, supposedly Hollywood writers, doing a wrestling show. There's two totally different things. I think they said in a perfect world, I think wrestlers should be the ones controlling the show, for the most part.
You talking about as far as the writing goes?
Yeah, as far as the writing goes, we've seen in WCW how that went.
I agree with that, as long as they're not involved in the show as well.
Mm.
You know what I mean? I believe if you're going to be a writer, or a book, and you're a former talent or something, you don't have no role as far as on screen anything in the show.
And you can mention that the
same
thing
making
with
the producers
WCW?
The writers, like the guys like Arn Anderson or even a Fit Finlay, Kevin Sullivan, Mike Rotundo.
You know what? I don't think Arn Anderson would care too much about that, doing that job. I believe if that was an offer, the one person that would jump on that would be Kevin Sullivan, because he's always been a booker in the past.
Yeah, you're right.
And he's pretty crafty. He's pretty crafty, you know. Dusty was a pretty crafty booker, man. I mean,
oh yeah.
You know, if you can get him to say, okay, I'm gonna put personal feelings aside and just do what's best for business. I'm not gonna try to just, do what's best for my buddies. You know what I mean? If you can get, I think that's
Dusty
why
had the same leeway that he was given with Jim Crockett to run WWE, or at least WWE programming, like they did back in Jim Crockett promotion, or even in Florida.
Right. Mm-hmm.
It would definitely make it interesting. I just don't think the McMahons would give him that kind of power.
Oh no. That's why Bill Watts only lasted like a half a year when he came up in the 90s.
Yeah.
During the King Mabel run, Bill Watts was the booker.
And don't you think that might have been the downfall? I mean, at least part of the downfall for WCW back in the 90s where the wrestlers, for the most part, were controlling the show, but it was being done in a way where the guys who were actually wrestling on the show had no clue what decisions were being made at kind of last-minute things that right before they go in there, things change,
You think that's what killed the show?
Oh, no, that's one of the things, I believe. There's a lot of different things to talk about.
What do you think was a major thing that killed the show?
Let me see out of the 100 things I can say. I think maybe the one thing that killed WCW entirely was, you can mention things like the NWO not being, being much more than what it should have been. I think they got over exaggerated. But I don't know. There's a lot of factors.
There's really just one.
Money.
They spent too much money, bro.
Yeah.
They from a rating standpoint, they were killing WWE. So they had the advertising dollars coming in. The problem was when Kevin Nash and all these guys started coming in, Bischoff was giving these guys so much money, man, that half the time they didn't want to go to work.
Yeah.
They half the time they didn't want to go to work. And all they were doing mostly were pay-per-views. They didn't do too many road shows at the time. They almost cut that out. So it more than anything that killed them was money, because even on their last day, the show was still interesting. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And the inside part of it, that we could see, that we with an educated eye could see the bullshit, like the Kevin Nash going to the ring, taking a finger poke, giving a finger poke or whatever it was, and putting somebody else, all that bullshit, that was going on there. We with an educated eye could see that, that sucked, you know what I mean? But all in all, WCW could have, and when all that money's going out the door, and then when Ted Turner sold his interest in TBS like that, and somebody else was in control of people that didn't care nothing about wrestling, that's when they ran into problems. Once Turner didn't have his full support on WCW, that's when it was going to be short-lived, man, because all of the other executives in charge of programming and stuff, they wanted it gone, man. They didn't want the production cost because they were having to pay that. They didn't want the production cost. They had all this money going out. When you're losing $20 and $30 million a year, man, you can't do that for a long period of time. And it's not like they didn't have talent. They had talent, man. They had all the talent in the world. Their problem was, Bischoff gave the wrong people control. How you get Kevin Nash to book? How you make Kevin Nash the booker? Really?
Yeah.
Somebody that goes from one of the Master Blasters to Oz to Vinny Vegas, to leaving and being Diesel for a couple years, and then all of a sudden, he's built up such a big name himself. He can come to WCW and just take over.
Pretty much.
No, that was a knife in the back right there. That was the beginning of the end, man. That was the beginning of the end. Yeah, they did tremendous in the ratings all those years, all those weeks they beat WWE in the ratings, man. But the inner workings with the time. I mean, Brian Clark will tell you, Adam Baum will tell you. What about the story with Goldberg? Goldberg signed at home for a year and a half and drew a paycheck when he should have been down at the power plant training.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, man. You got people sitting at home drawing $250,000, $400,000 a year, and they ain't contributing nothing to the show, to the business, nothing. You can't just keep spending money like that, man, and not getting no return on your money.
And on that note, we're going to go ahead and bring this conversation to an end at this point. Mo will definitely bring that up again on Thursday.
Okay,
we're definitely going to bring things to an end tonight. And, let me tell you, when we all get into a heated discussion, whether it be Tuesday or Thursday, it really gets heated. And it's not a bad heated, but it's more of a just like, maybe they should try this. Maybe they should do that. Look at this. You examine it a little bit more thoroughly. And I think that really is key. And for those who were not around during that era or have not been familiar with it, it gives you a new insight on it because a lot of us grew up watching that era. Mo lived it, and has seen it and been there, done it. And we appreciate your insight on that, Mo. We can't thank you enough for stopping in and giving us your thoughts and so forth. It is definitely something to think about for those who listen in tonight. You're getting some good insight on one of the all-time greats.
Hey, real quick, Felix, I got a little trivia note for you while we got Mo on the line.
Oh, go for it.
We're talking about the final Nitro. We're talking about those where, people remember them as being terrible shows. They were still, in that last year, getting 2 million people a week to watch, and that very last Nitro had over 3 million people watching it.
Right.
So it's like you're saying, man, people were still interested in the show, man, but if you ain't got the dough, you ain't got no show.
Of course.
That's the best way to put it.
TBS itself as a corporation had the money, the Turner Network had the money, but the executives were extremely tired of just pumping it into a bottomless pit, man, because the workers themselves didn't protect the business. They just took until it was all gone, and now, we have to deal with, WWE that corners the market. Because TNA can't compete, and Global Force, as much as everybody's raving about, the pay-per-view that was on the other night, they got a long way to go before they take over any kind of wrestling in the United States, man.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. But We'll pick this back up, Nate. If you want, man, if you get time on Thursday nights, call into the show. The guys would love it, and ask them anything you want because I know Oscar has his opinions, Mimi has hers, and Mo has his.
Mo got too many damn opinions. Mo got too many opinions, but
that's okay though. You're entitled to it. Yeah. You've etched your mark in professional wrestling and. Like I said, you've been there, done that, and done it twice sometimes.
Well, Felix, let me just throw this at you real quick before I get off here.
Go for it.
On Thursday, remind me to tell you what my biggest regret is, with my professional wrestling career.
Okay.
Because for the last 3 weeks, I have thought about something that I did, and I have been kicking myself in the ass for the last 3 weeks about it, and okay. when you hear what I got to say on Thursday, you'll be like, yeah, you know what, you just pissed away a career, because I did.
Well, you know what though, and you have the right to feel however you want to about your career. For those of us who got to watch you as fans, young fans at that back then, we enjoyed what you brought. We don't know what was going on behind the scenes, and it was probably better that we didn't. But for what you brought at that time that you brought it, it was definitely worth watching, and we enjoyed it very much.
Yeah,
we do thank you for that.
The bottom line is I left too soon, and I didn't have to. Which is what people don't know. I left too soon. I didn't have to. Everybody's under this impression that I got fired, and I really didn't. So, CM
I'll
Punk,
definitely remind you about it.
Please do, because CM Punk gets a lot of praise for, walking out, leaving. Like, he's God for doing that. He's not the only person that's ever left Vince like that.
Okay.
I enjoy
definitely
listening to
touch
you
on
guys'
that
show,
and bring it up and have something. That's definitely something to talk about for those who are listening in. Want to know a little bit more insight on where Mo was and what his choice, why his choice was to leave. Definitely tune in this Thursday night and get the full details.
Yeah,
Mo, man, it's been an awesome time here chatting with you. We all definitely got some insight from a wrestling great, and I look forward to chatting with you guys on Thursday. Like I said, Nate, you have an open invitation. Austin, if you want to try to I say threaten. I say more like pose another challenge to Oscar. He's probably going to be waiting anytime you're ready.
Bring it.
I love it.
But
man,
overall,
guys,
it was a great show. Oh,
thanks,
no problem.
guys, for having me on.
Definitely great chatting with you, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay, guys. Good night.
All right,
Good
take
night.
it easy.
All right, sir.
And there you have it, another great insight in professional wrestling from the one and only Sir Mo. As we start to wind things down here, definitely one of my favorite shows so far, I guess the only show we could say so far we've done in 2015 that's my favorite,
Best
the very first
one.
Why not?
Bret the Hitman Hart kicked it off, and what a great conversation. I mean, down to the bone, he had answers to everything, and really interesting throughout the entire conversation. It kind of, I think, went to different levels. I mean, the conversation with Sir Mo there was very intriguing. It definitely has a lot of, points, and all the opinions, I think, are great because everybody has one, and mine are usually the ones I think are correct most of the time. But Sir Mo, hey, if you want me to be honest, but Sir Mo, awesome. I really love. I love him. I love the show. National Radio Show on Thursday nights. Him, Oscar, and Mimi put on a phenomenal show. They really do. Every single Thursday night.
And they're back, folks, and they're going to be running full force with some great guests coming for the future. You don't want to miss it. And as I mentioned, Austin mentioned, we got the one and only Nigel McGuinness tomorrow night. And that's not all. We've got the Von Erich Nation. The boys are back. The Von Erich boys are back, and they'll be joining us Tuesday night to talk about their careers thus far and what they're planning to do for 2015. Any final words, guys? Parting words before we go ahead and close for tonight?
That show, tonight's show was possibly the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be. Come on,
no cliche about it, right, Austin?
You have to say it.
Well, what about you, Nate? What you got to say, man? Any final words?
Yeah, it was a fun show. I think you could call it excellently executed. It was a great way to kick off the year, and like you were saying, man, if you're new to the show, I think we probably got a lot of new ears tonight just because we had Bret the Hitman Hart on. If you're new to the show, this is your first time listening, we appreciate you listening, and stick around each and every week, man, because it just keeps getting better here on Pipebomb Radio. So, this was fun, and can't wait for the rest of the year.
I believe Pipebomb Radio.
And I guess I will throw in my own little
old.
cliche and call us the Hitman of Pipebomb Radio. How about that? No.
Well, no,
your guys was better.
No, I was going to say. I don't know. I think Pipebomb Radio is 3 years old, right?
Yeah.
3 years old. Pipebomb Radio is still a child. That if he were in the crowd in the '90s, Bret Hart would have gotten the shade for Pipebomb Radio. We would have got him.
But all in all, a great show, guys. Always definitely stepping it up as the show has progressed, and definitely the bar has been set, and we're going to exceed it every time. I really believe that. For those listening tonight, we hope you enjoyed hearing the great words of the one and only Hitman, and the added bonus, getting a great insight from Sir Mo on professional wrestling. And from all of us, of course, we all got opinions. Austin got it, Nate's got it, and I got it, and we're going to keep sharing them week in and week out, and that's why you guys love us. But on behalf of the two of us here, the three of us, Austin, Nate, and myself, I'm going to go ahead and close for tonight. But we're closing for tonight, but the phrase never changes. Keep your feet on the ground and keep reaching for the stars. Happy New Year, guys. 2015 is going to kick some butt, and we'll be leading the charge. Good night, everybody. Good night, guys.